Hi guys, welcome back to Tile and Cork. We are Amy and Josh, and we moved to Lisbon, Portugal in 2024 from Austin, Texas with our two kids. We are here sharing about our moving abroad experience with you. And today we want to talk about something that is kind of recent.
Yeah, you probably heard in the news there was a blackout in Spain and Portugal. They talk a lot about Spain, but Portugal's so tiny. We had it too. This happened. When was this?
It was on Monday.
It was on Monday.
So
it was a few days ago.
As when we're recording this video,
and we decided, this is something that shot up in the news. Obviously, they heard about it in the States, and people asked us about it and how it was. And we realized it also may, if you're thinking about moving to Portugal, you may have some doubts about
the infrastructure. Like what's going on?
But we want to put some of that to ease. Obviously, we don't know what caused it yet, and maybe we'll do an update to this video when we do.
Now, a lot of you too might be concerned because if you're not as familiar with Portugal, you might really not know what the infrastructure looks like here. You might think that it's a developing country. You know, you might have seen graffiti, things like that. But Portugal is a pretty advanced country, and the infrastructure here is really great. So let's just talk a little bit about that day and what happened and what we know and what we saw.
Yeah, well, we're in Lisbon, first of all, which is a major city. And it's funny, it's a city that you don't, being here, it doesn't feel like a big city like Manhattan.
Yeah, definitely not at that size, even though it is the capital of Portugal.
But we have a metro system, we have a bus transit system. Honestly, we don't have a car, so we get around on that way. But in fact, that day we had taken the subway to another part of the city to explore, do some shopping.
Yeah, we had some stuff to take care of over there, and so we were out wandering around.
Yeah,
and
we first encountered one place that the lights were off, but we didn't even realize.
We wandered in, and they had some good natural light coming in through the windows, and we just thought this was their atmosphere.
It was a lovely tea and coffee shop.
Yeah,
and we thought it was kind of a warmish day, a warmer day than we've had in a while, and we thought it was just kind of cool and like literally cool in there with the lights off, and that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
They told us that the power was out, and they thought it was maybe a big deal because it never goes out.
Yeah, they said this is really the first time that this has happened, and that they thought it might be the whole block or the whole area or something. And we're like, oh no, we were planning on getting lunch over here, so hopefully it's just this isolated section, and it comes back on soon.
We went to across the street to the park. We were waiting for our lunch place to open, which opened at noon. We stopped in a park, and actually there's an English language bookstore that was nearby that I wanted to run into because I was looking for a book for the kids. And I went in there, and their lights were off, and they're doing some stuff back and forth, and that's when the gentleman that works at the store said, it's all of Portugal and even France and Spain. And let's hope it's not something more serious. That it's and it started like, it's a bookstore. So, I was worried about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But he said it's communications, it's everything. And at the time we didn't know it was communications. So I immediately tried to call you and nothing went through. But in communications, like phones were kind of spotty off and on.
Yeah.
We regrouped.
And I was hanging out at the park still, and so you can, and I was just chilling on a park bench, hanging on my phone. Like I didn't have any internet issues on my phone, and I was scrolling through photos, I think, and I heard a siren going off somewhere, and I just thought, no big deal. And then you came up to me and you said, "Did you hear the news?" And I thought, like, oh my gosh, what's happened? Like I didn't even think
she always knows everything before
I didn't even think this was related to the power outage, so I didn't even I was just like, what? And that's when you told me what the guy at the bookstore said, and we're like, Oh, okay. Well, I guess
I
we're-
screamed out loud, "We're all gonna die." No, but you know, that's when I started noticing that people were outside of restaurants. A lot of workers, you know, servers and cooks were hanging out front,
yeah,
having a smoke because it was dark inside.
they couldn't maybe even
Yeah, I mean,
work if they had electric stuff. They couldn't work it. So yeah,
electric stuff. Plus, um, uh, and so we panicked only a little bit because we didn't have communications and our kids were in school
yeah,
and we were across town.
yeah,
We knew immediately we probably couldn't take a subway.
yeah. Because we figured,
We didn't double
yeah.
check, but sure enough, they closed the subway. And so we went to go wait for a bus. All the buses were pretty crowded.
Yeah.
And it was
like,
definitely standing room only.
Yeah, people pushing you to
People
get on, like
getting in the outside, the get off door.
yeah.
What is it? Anyway, the getting
Exit
on
door.
the exit door. And yeah, it was cramped. Everyone was packed in tight, and that was probably the most harrowing part of our trip. The interesting thing was coming on the bus and looking out the window. Again, I'd say Lisbon seems like a small city. It doesn't even seem that crowded unless you're in a touristy area. But with everyone out, it was like, you know, someone had sprayed a hose at an anthill and everyone's just going outside, hanging outside, waiting for buses.
Yeah, so there were lines at the bus stops.
Right. But otherwise, people were just kind of outside. The kiosks were open and people were sitting at them. A lot of the cafes were open.
Yeah.
And people were sitting and having a drink and kind of enjoying themselves. I mean, it was a really nice day.
Yeah, so it was warm weather. We got off the bus and we decided to divide and conquer. So we knew our son's school was closing because via WhatsApp chats, like his teacher had let us know, everybody needed to come pick up the kids.
And our daughter's school, her public school, like the parents in her class are all in a group chat, and that seemed to be kind of working. And you know, it's lovely here. Most of the people, they live close to the school. And so somebody asked, like, is everything okay at the school? And somebody said, well, I just looked out the window and the kids seem fine, you know? And so there is actually eyewitness reports from across the street, you know, literally, of the school. But we did decide that, well, let's just stop by and see if the kids can be picked up or not. And the kids didn't know anything was going on.
Yeah, like I went to pick up my son at his school, and there's a little cafe around the corner.
It's our son.
Our son, yes. And it was actually really cool because, like, at the cafe around the corner, I saw a bunch of people sitting outside drinking beer because it was a hot day. So beer is nice on a hot day. And I thought, like, oh, how nice, you know, like, I guess and then I saw them bringing out plates of food. And I thought, oh, well, they must have like a gas stove or some way to cook it because it looked like they were bringing out hot food. And I thought, like, okay, that's nice. I figured places like restaurants probably weren't even able to serve customers. So it was nice to see.
I want to correct you on one thing. Beer is good any day, not just a hot day. But we got the kids home. We ended up taking them out to the park, right?
No,
what did we do?
You went out to the park.
Oh, I went out to the park.
Yeah, the kids just kind of wanted to hang out here. Our daughter was working on crafts. Our son,
iPads were charged.
The iPads were charged, so they got to do some stuff, watch some stuff on the iPads. So they weren't super excited to leave the house. We probably should have forced them to.
But I went out to the nearby park. Some people were using it to commute home. Just lots of people were walking home, and the kiosk was open. It was full. The playground was full of kids. People were out on picnic blankets. We are also close to the university, so it was definitely a day where the students were like, free day.
Yeah.
No internet. They can't make us do anything.
And obviously a lot of people got sent home from work early because there was no electricity.
Right.
So just everybody it was like a vacation day, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like an unexpected vacation day.
Everyone was in good moods. There wasn't even any honking. The turning point came when we noticed that our downstairs neighbors were out in our back courtyard enjoying themselves. And I happened to peek out and they're like, hey, come on down and join us. We have lovely people in this building. Actually, everyone here is lovely. Everyone's super nice.
Yeah.
They said, just bring a glass down
Because they had wine and we did not have wine.
No.
So,
And
that was a
didn't have
mistake, but yeah.
We're not preppers, but we will be. We'll
Yeah.
be wine preppers.
Mm-hmm. So the kids came downstairs with us and we went to the courtyard and
There was food.
they had
There-
snacks out
there
there,
was
wine.
Lots of
They
wine.
brought juice. Somebody came down with like juice
Iced-
bottles
the
for the
iced tea.
kids,
There-
the
iced-
iced tea, like cartons for the kids, potato chips. They brought out candy for the kids. Our downstairs neighbors also have a little boy, so like the kids were running around.
You're right, and it was also our neighbor's birthday, so
Mhm.
that was another reason to drink. So we were out there for a good while, and really enjoying our neighbor's company, enjoying the weather. By that time we had heard that the power should be back on by 8 or 10 or midnight, and everyone seemed convinced of that because that it wouldn't be more than that one day, because the next day the weather wasn't going to be as good. It was supposed to rain, so there's no reason for them to keep the power off just so everyone could enjoy the weather outside. There's some conspiracy theory that it was such a nice day that they just wanted to spend some time outside. The power did actually come back on around 9 o'clock, I think. It's slowly rolling out. And enough time, we could charge iPads. Kids were going to bed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And if it had lasted longer than the day, we hadn't been to the market that day. We have smaller fridges here. But we had plenty of food. We have a gas stove. If we thought about it, we would have definitely invited our neighbors to cook up here because they had an electric stove.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking about anything because we had been drinking, including we actually locked ourselves out of our apartment.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
Again, our neighbors are so great. They broke into our apartment.
Yeah.
Which, note to ourselves, our neighbors can break into our apartment.
It did take some effort. You were still out in the backyard, but I watched our neighbors do it, and it was amazing. It was so fantastic.
The kids were
up here. They cheered, and they were calling, the guy that did it a hero, and how he was amazing.
They're saying Guy's dad is a hero.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was awesome.
So Guy's dad, their own dad.
But yeah, so it was.
Yeah.
So that happened.
So, but if it lasted longer, we might have been a little bit more concerned. But we had plenty of food. We had plenty of water. Also, I'm convinced, our neighbors, we would have just
pulled our
resources for as long as we needed to. If there was a problem, some people have cars if we needed them.
Yeah.
But everyone, that's one thing here. Everyone looks out for each other, for sure. Our neighbors who we've only known for a few months are just very gracious, and we definitely need to pay them back somehow.
Yeah.
But I think if it were the U.S. and people would have been at the stores, hoarding toilet paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And here people did go to the grocery store because, again, you kind of grocery shop like every day or two. So there were people that definitely probably needed to get some food, pick up some food. And, we would have, I was already in my mind thinking about okay, what can we eat around here so we don't have to go to the store? There were some stores that were open, but most of them kind of closed because they didn't have power. But I will say, when we came home, I promised the kids that when we got home, we could eat all the ice cream in the freezer. We had some ice cream in the freezer, so we ate that immediately when we got home, just so it didn't have to melt in there.
Right. The same reason I had a cocktail because I had to use all the ice.
Right.
Before it melted.
Absolutely. But I think, what it did teach us is we can count on our neighbors, which is fantastic. And in the future here too, I think we'll make sure we always have cash on hand just in case, because there are situations when you might not be able to rely on credit cards. We'll always make sure we just have food in the house and some bottled water in case of emergencies. But again, this was pretty rare, and everybody says this has really never happened. So
right, and again, they don't know how. Obviously, it was a big thing, and they don't know how it happened. But honestly, I think if we didn't have water, we'd have plenty of beer.
Yeah,
the kiosks were all selling beer.
And to put this in perspective, where we lived in Texas, in Austin, the power grid, not great. There are people in Austin and Texas that would lose power for days in certain situations,
Water.
or water supply for days. So
Heat.
I mean, you know, while you might look at the situation and say like, oh my gosh, what's going on with Spain and Portugal? Is it a place that I should move to? Just know that this happens other places and the US
Right.
too. So it's not like this is a weird situation.
And I would say
necessarily.
it turned out to be one of the better days of our lives here.
I think a lot of people here would say that too. Like, it was a great opportunity to connect with neighbors, spend time outdoors, and the weather was fantastic.
Be off social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, we end up, we'll talk about this till the end of our days.
All right, so that's pretty much it for what we experienced. And again, if you want to hear more videos or watch more videos about experiences,
Or read more videos.
Yeah, watch videos of what it's really like of moving abroad and living somewhere else. Like, make sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff, and feel free to pop any questions in the comments too. We're happy to pop in there.
We'll see you next time, unless it's the Dark Ages.
Bye.